She canceled our engagement party right at the table because it didn't fit her aesthetic. So I quietly walked away and ended it all. Months later, her perfect new fiancé took her money and vanished, and she came back begging for another chance. But by then, I'd already moved on with someone real. My name is Noah, and I still remember that Friday evening like it was yesterday. The clock had just hit 7:45 p.m., and we were sitting at Radria, a place that once felt special to us. Her phone was placed face down beside her wine glass, like she wanted to show me she was present, yet somehow her mind was miles away. We had been together for 3 years, and it had been just 6 weeks since our engagement. The party was already set for next month at my parents' house. 8 couples, my mom's famous lasagna, laughter, music, and everything simple but full of love. To me, it felt perfect. But Madison, my fiancé, didn't seem to think so anymore. The soft golden lights above our table dimmed slightly, creating that kind of warm glow people usually find romantic. But she only shifted in her seat, gently pushing her salad around with her fork. Her eyes were fixed on me in a way that made me uneasy, like she was trying to make a decision she already knew the answer to. I thought maybe she was commenting on the lights when she said, "Something feels off." But she shook her head slowly. "No, the problem wasn't the lighting. The problem," she said, "was everything. The napkins, the flowers, the whole setup. It didn't look cohesive enough. It wasn't the vibe she wanted." The waiter came over and cleared a plate, the soft clink of porcelain sounding almost too loud in the moment. I tried to bring up the plans again, talking about the friends we'd invited, the food, the music, hoping she'd see the love and effort behind it all. Madison just tapped her fingers against the table twice and said calmly, "It's not about them, Noah. It's about me." Those 5 words hit me harder than I expected. I tried to keep the conversation light, wanting to fix it, to reassure her that everything could be adjusted. But the look on her face was steady, cold even, and that calmness told me something inside her had already shifted. The engagement ring on my finger suddenly felt heavy. My mind drifted back to the maple tree where she had said yes, the moment that had felt like forever. I tried to hold onto that memory like it could save us. But she kept talking, saying I didn't understand how I came across, that the pictures from the party would look all wrong. She said she couldn't be seen like that, in that setting, around those details, as if love needed aesthetic approval to be real. Around us, people were laughing, glasses were clinking, but the space between us felt small, cold, and lonely. I stood slowly, wanting to clear my head before speaking. My elbow brushed against a chair. Someone laughed at a nearby table, and it all felt so public, so exposed. I wanted to remind her that this was supposed to be about us. About the people who loved us, my mom's cooking, the joy of everyone coming together. I looked at her and said quietly, "Madison, this party was for us, for the people who care about us, not for a mood board." She blinked, then said flatly that we had agreed it should look good, that it was the plan from the beginning. My chest tightened. "No," I said, sharper than I meant. "The plan was to celebrate, not to curate." All the small remarks she'd made over the past months started to pile up in my head. A comment about my parents' house being old-fashioned. A sigh when I wore jeans she didn't approve of. A corrective text when I worded something wrong. Each little moment had seemed minor alone, but together they formed a web of quiet disapproval. I realized how often I had excused it, telling myself she just had a taste for detail. But somewhere along the line, her taste had turned into judgment. We used to spend weekends hiking, trying out new recipes, visiting record shops, just enjoying life without needing it to be perfect. It was honest, it was real. But slowly, Madison started measuring moments by how they looked instead of how they felt. At first, I thought it was just a phase. Sitting there in that restaurant, watching her pick apart something as meaningful as our engagement party, I knew it was something deeper. Around us, silverware clicked, conversations continued, but my mind was miles away. I could feel the weight of the ring on my finger, the echo of the maple tree, and how one sentence could redefine everything we had. I spoke carefully, my words precise. "If you're canceling because a ribbon isn't the right shade, then it's not a plan, Madison. It's control." The silence that followed was heavy, stretching between us like a wall. The ring felt hot against my skin. She looked at me, completely still, no anger, no sadness. Just that cold, collected calm that comes when someone has already made up their mind. Then, her composure cracked slightly as she said, "You don't understand, Noah. I love you, but I can't be embarrassed." Her words cut deeper than she probably realized. They weren't cruel, just empty. I replied evenly, "I can't pretend this makes sense anymore." She took a deep breath, eyes steady, and said, "Don't turn this into drama." I almost laughed at the irony. "It already is," I said quietly. She stood then, pressing her palms against the table like she needed it to hold her up. For a moment, I thought she might sit back down, apologize, laugh it off. But instead, she grabbed her bag and whispered, "I can't do this right now." Her voice cracked at the end. Then she walked away, her coat slipping from one shoulder, her reflection flickering across the glass door as she left. I sat there alone, watching the rain outside blur her silhouette until it faded completely. My hand went to my ring finger instinctively. The metal felt warmer than before, but heavier too. For the first time since the proposal, it didn't feel like a promise. It felt like a reminder of what I had ignored. Later, sitting in my car, streetlights casting soft gold across the windshield, I called my mom and told her to put the party on hold. She didn't ask why. She just said, "Take your time, honey." That night I couldn't sleep. Every small moment from the past few months replayed in my mind. The quiet corrections, the subtle insults, the endless need to be seen a certain way. I told myself she was just particular, that she cared about details. But the truth hit me then. Details don't strengthen love. They replace it. Around midnight, I packed a small bag, not to leave forever, just to clear my head. I slept on the couch, listening to the empty quiet of the apartment. Her side of the closet still smelled like her shampoo. I didn't take the ring off. Leaving it on was my way of facing what we'd become. 2 weeks passed. Silence grew between us until it started to feel almost comfortable. The kind of quiet you stop questioning when you've accepted that the call isn't coming. Then, one afternoon, my phone buzzed. Her name, Madison. Her voice was shaky, like she was holding herself together with words. "Noah," she said, "we need to talk." I agreed, though I didn't know why. She asked to meet at 4, at her place. When I arrived, the sky was a heavy shade of gray, threatening rain. I told myself this would be the final conversation, one way or another. When she opened the door, she looked polished, perfect. An off-white sweater, hair draped effortlessly. Even the room behind her looked designed. Candles, flowers, and a perfectly placed throw blanket. It smelled like vanilla and tension. "Thanks for coming," she said softly, and I already knew this wasn't going to be an apology. I stepped inside. Everything looked like a magazine layout. Candles half-burned, pillows arranged symmetrically, flowers cut to the same height. It didn't feel like a home, felt like a set. She sat down across from me, her posture straight, her expression carefully managed. "Noah," she began, "I need to explain." Then she said something that stuck with me. "You embarrassed me." Couldn't help but repeat it. "Embarrassed you?" She nodded. "You walked out like I said something horrible. My friends saw. They said you looked cold." I almost laughed. "Your friends didn't hear you cancel our engagement party because it wasn't aesthetic enough." She looked down at her phone. "You don't get it," she whispered. "I have a vision for my life. I need things to look right. You're okay with average things, but I can't live like that." That word, average, hung in the air like smoke. I repeated it slowly. Average. Finally, something honest. She folded her arms, unmoved. "Real doesn't trend," she said. And for the first time, I realized she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to herself, to the version she wanted the world to see. Then she pulled out a planner, filled with mood boards, color schemes, and photos. "I've been working with a designer," she said. "He can redo everything. Better venue, new decor, professional photographers." I just need you to help cover the new budget. I stared at her. You're asking me to pay for this? She nodded. It's our engagement party. I took a breath, steady but firm. You just told me I embarrassed you. She hesitated, then said, It's not about that. It's about how people see us. We can't look cheap. That's when I knew she wasn't talking about us anymore. She was talking about her image, about the life she wanted people to think she had. Something inside me went still. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized the woman sitting across from me was no longer the one I fell in love with. She had become a brand, and I was just part of the packaging. I stood slowly, the light catching on her ring. Madison, I said quietly, I'm not paying for a fantasy. She blinked, speechless for once. I turned toward the door. Her voice followed, soft but defensive. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I paused, looked back once, and said calmly, No, you are. Then I left. 2 months later, I saw her again. Not in person, but online. A friend had tagged me in a post. Aesthetic Engagement Party 2.0. I opened it. There she was, smiling beside a new guy, sharp suit, polished watch, perfect smile. The caption read, When you find someone who shares your vision. Every photo looked like it belonged in a magazine. Perfect lighting, perfect outfits, perfect everything. Comments flooded in. Couple goals. Flawless vibe. She upgraded. I didn't feel angry, just tired. For months later, a friend sent me a TikTok. Watch this, they said. It was Madison. No filters, no glamour, just a plain wall behind her. The caption read, Sometimes perfection costs too much. She spoke softly, saying she'd been used. The new guy had taken her money, maxed out her credit cards, and vanished. The same people who once called her goals were now laughing in the comments. That's what happens when you choose filters over feelings. I didn't feel satisfaction, only a quiet kind of closure. I looked at the engagement ring still sitting in my drawer. For months it had felt like a symbol of failure. That night it looked like freedom. 6 months later, Madison showed up at my office lobby. She looked different. No designer coat, no makeup, just a paper cup of coffee in her hands. Noah, she said gently, can we talk? We sat on a bench across the street, the same spot where I once told her I wanted forever. She looked down at her coffee, then said softly, I was wrong. About everything. She told me how the man after me had promised her fame, success, sponsorships, and left her with debt and regret. Her voice trembled as she said, I thought if everything looked perfect, it would be perfect. I didn't interrupt. She looked at me, eyes glassy. You saw it, didn't you? The way I was changing. I nodded. Yeah. I just kept hoping you'd come back. Her voice broke as she whispered, You were the only one who ever saw me for me. I didn't realize it until you left. Do you think we could ever try again? I looked at her. The same woman who once canceled our party over napkins and flowers, now asking for another chance. I wanted to say yes, but then I remembered that night in the restaurant, the weight of the ring, the way she walked away from something real. Madison, I said softly, you didn't love me. You loved the idea of being loved. She closed her eyes, whispering, That's not fair. I shook my head. It's true. Maybe someday you'll understand. She nodded slowly, whispered, I'm sorry, and walked away. No drama, no tears, just quiet steps fading into the evening. That was the last time I saw her. A year later, I got engaged again. This time to Lily, a woman who didn't care about filters or aesthetics. We laughed over burnt pancakes, took messy pictures, and loved without performance. When I posted our engagement photo, just the two of us laughing on a rooftop, I noticed Madison's name in the likes. No comment, just silence. Months later, I heard she'd moved back home and started an event planning business. Minimalist, authentic, no filters. Maybe she learned something, maybe not. But I wasn't part of that story anymore. The night before my wedding, I found the old engagement ring in a drawer. I took it to a jeweler, sold it, and left with an envelope of cash. As I walked out into the evening, I felt a calm finality wash over me. She had wanted a picture-perfect life. But I'd learned that the best things in life don't need to be perfect. They just need to be real. Like, share, and subscribe if you believe real love should never need a filter.